Yemen, so as not to belabor it, why can't you just say, you know what, we were wrong, it's not a model for success?
Because, Ed, we've tried to be very clear about what our strategy is as it relates to confronting extremists that seek to establish a safe haven in chaotic, unstable countries with chaotic, unstable governments. And
despite that chaos which existed last fall, the president said it's a success. He was wrong, right? Just say, why can't you say he's wrong and we're trying to fix it, we're trying to figure it out? It just seems like we keep going around and around that it's still a model when it's not, right?
Ed, we've been very clear about what we think the strategy can be, and that strategy, even in Yemen, despite all of the challenges that I readily acknowledge exist there, that we have put intense pressure on extremists inside of Yemen. And it has mitigated the threat that they pose to the U.S. and the West. I want to be clear, it has not eliminated that threat. We continue to be vigilant about the threat these individuals pose. And I would also concede to you that the ability of the United States to put pressure on these extremists is not helped by the fact that our personnel had to leave Yemen because the situation there has become so dangerous. But we do retain the capacity and the capability to apply pressure to those extremists, and we will do that both by working with our partners in the region, by working with those elements of the Yemeni security forces that we're able to work with, and we're going to continue to be closely on the lookout for U.S. interests inside Yemen, and that is where the core of those interests lie, which is pushing back against the threat that is posed by extremists that are operating in that country.
Related subject of Afghanistan, yesterday the president laid out that you've got to stretch out the timetable a bit more, leave more U.S. troops in Afghanistan, in part because of the Taliban resurgence perhaps, but also ISIS. President Ghani says they're recruiting in this country. It was only in January that General Campbell told CBS's 60 Minutes he didn't see ISIS making it to Afghanistan. It's just 2-3 months ago, again. How did the administration misjudge that? And will you just acknowledge that ISIS has spread to Afghanistan, and you've misjudged that?
Well, as far as I know, there is one individual, a senior Taliban commander, who did cite his affiliation with ISIL, and that individual was promptly taken off the battlefield in Afghanistan. So there's one aspect of your question that I do want to make sure that people understand. I know you understand this, but just for precision. What the president determined is that he lengthened the timeline for a handful of, for military personnel to remain in Afghanistan through this year. But what has not changed is his intention to draw down our military footprint by the end of next year to reflect the need to protect the embassy and to carry out to maintain the military-to-military relationship between the United States and Afghanistan. So the change in policy does not affect that endpoint. And that's important for people to understand, given sort of the long trajectory of the drawdown here, right? It was only a few years ago that we had more than 100,000 U.S. military personnel in Afghanistan. We're down to about 10,000. We will remain at that about 10,000 level through the end of this year. But by the end of next year, by the end of 2016, we'll be down to about 1,000 troops, again, just to defend the embassy and to fulfill this security cooperation.